Good morning, everyone. Hello and welcome back to Crazy Callan Vlogs. And I think I'm gonna start calling these the summer of finding me. It's 4:30 in the morning. I got up at 3:30 in the morning to make sure that I got down here for another sunrise. And I couldn't be more happy to do so. As you guys know, I'm on a journey this summer more than I have ever been. For myself, soul searching, growing as a person, and trying to make the best out of every single day of life, no matter what it throws at me. Because the world is a beautiful place, and I am ready to live in it every day to the best of my ability, for myself as well as everybody else that I love. Today I do have a story time for you guys, and it has been amazing to have had this experience with somebody, a total stranger named Johnny. So I will tell you about Johnny in just a moment, because before we get into Johnny's story, we gotta go to Robin and her journey and what she did to impact this part of my life that I'm living in right now. So I wouldn't have met Johnny the other day if I didn't have a Robin in my life years ago. I met a woman in a parking lot at a local store near me, probably close to 13 years ago or so. We got out of the car in the same parking lot, going into the same exact store. It was a Family Dollar. And I came out with my big, huge headband with a red flower in my hair. I had on the brightest and most colorful summer outfit. My makeup was ablaze with color, and I just was my most eccentric self that day. I felt all dolled up and ready to go. Well, Robin was getting out of the car right next to me in a very similar outfit, style, and just uniqueness about her that I kind of carry myself with my eccentric personality and dress. So we got out, we looked at each other, and we started laughing immediately. And we said, "My soul sister." She said, "You're my twin." And immediately we became friends, absolutely immediately. She owned a thrift store, local in a couple of towns over. We got to talking that day in the parking lot, and then went in shopping in the same store. Talked all through the store, and she found out that I loved to make jewelry, craft, create, and do all of this, selling of my items and stuff like that through craft fairs and online and stuff like that. So she said, "Would you be willing to do some work for me? I have a vintage thrift store 2 towns over, and I would love for you to bring some of your stuff to my store, and I can sell it in my shop to accessorize my vintage thrift clothes that she had a passion for buying and selling." So she had actually opened her own thrift store just a couple of months prior to meeting me. And she said, "How perfect is this? They come in for some fancy, unique, antique clothing, vintage clothing, and then they can accessorize at the same time." So I started making jewelry specifically for some of the things that she would put out, headbands, and she even had a flapper party at her store one weekend. So I had to make specialty flapper headdresses for her event. And we worked together for many years, probably about 3 years. And as we got deeper into our friendship and stuff, the more stories she told me about her life. She was a twin. Her twin lived in California, had passed away suddenly just the year prior to meeting me. And she was very, very close to her twin, even though they lived on different coasts. They were very much connected, and she missed her a lot, and it caused a lot of mental health issues for her. So in the year prior to meeting me after she lost her sister, she decided to try to rediscover herself, find out who she was as a person, who she could be here on this earth alone, without her twin being here anymore. She started to travel by herself. And so these stories have stuck with me all of these years. She always told me that year, after losing her sister, she did the most traveling that she had ever done in her whole entire life. And she went to many different countries, all the states of the United States of America. She did it alone. And she said, and that was her mission, was to do it alone, to find herself, give herself new experiences, being disconnected from anybody else, dependent of anybody else, and trying to figure out her purpose in life and where she needed to be now that she was here without her twin. She said, if I can give you any advice, because she was a little bit older than me, just not too much, but she was older than me. And she said, rediscover yourself. She said, travel alone, do things alone. She said, I know people, it's like a very difficult thing to digest and try to do and swallow that pill of going to a restaurant by yourself, going to the movies by yourself, taking a trip by yourself, a week's vacation by yourself. She said, I have gone on more self-discovery trips this year than I have ever done in my entire life. And she said, and it has brought me to places I never thought it could ever bring me to. And she said, I have met people worldwide. I have friends in so many different countries now. I have so many different connections and friendships throughout all of the United States of America. She said, going alone opens you up to a world that you would never realize is there, people that you would never realize is there, because you're always with people that are your comfort zone and that you just stay, connected to during these experiences, and you don't offer a lot of welcoming to people coming into contact with you because you're doing your own thing. You're less approachable. You're with your family, your friends, you're having your own experiences. When you're alone, it opens up people to be able to come right up to you and say hello, introduce themselves, welcome you over to their dining table so that you don't eat alone. She said, how many people did I meet in just random restaurants in other countries and other states that just said, hey, you here alone? Why don't you come sit with us? And she said, and then I spent hours talking with strangers. And I can say now that I've learned something new and different from every single person that I have encountered and created these relationships with. And if I hadn't gone by myself, these moments would have never happened. These lessons would have never been learned. Learning people's personalities, the way they live their life, you can take from that in so many different ways to benefit your life, change who you are, learn new things, and grow. And I've held on to this my whole 30s, pretty much, because it was the later part of my 20s that I met her. And she was already entering her 40s at that point. And I've held on to these memories of Robin for all of these years and thinking to myself in the back of my head, without speaking it out loud to anybody else, I wonder if there's ever going to come a point in my life where I'm going to be brave enough, bold enough, outgoing enough, which I always was such a social person. But as years got more difficult for me, I just became less and less outgoing, less and less social. The world changed. I became less and less social. And as I've crept up in age, Robin has just been constantly in my mind, in my heart, and in my soul, just like speaking to me. Please go out in the world, meet new people, experience new things. And I can tell you that Robin is no longer here with us. And I didn't know her for an extensively long period of time. She was a wonderful person, a wonderful friend, and an absolutely amazing mentor, a support, an encourager. She really pushed me to continue to do what I love, my jewelry making, my accessory making, to promote it, to go out, don't be afraid, and just live your best life and do what makes you happy. And she's been gone for many, many years now, and her passing was an absolute shock to me. And even though I knew her for such a short period of time in relation to my other relationships, my other friendships, my other, relationships that I've had in my life experience, she made such an impact on me. And as I've gotten older, I hear her message replaying in my head louder and louder and louder every single year. And it wasn't even a full year ago that I said to myself, this next year of my life, I'm going to start living like Robin. I'm going to try to do the best I can to push myself out of my comfort zone, push myself out of being an introvert that I have become, which was never my personality. I'm going to learn to do things on my own, become my own best friend, find myself again, become a new version of myself. I want to meet strangers, and I can tell you, in all honesty, in these last probably 6 months or more, that I've been doing more and more and more by myself, on my own, for longer durations of time. In all of these different areas, I have encountered some of the most amazing strangers that I feel were fully and wholeheartedly put in my path purposely to offer me the message that Robin offered me all those years ago. It just is reaffirming everything that she told me to be 100% true. It is okay to love yourself just like you love everybody else, if not more. We have to take care of ourselves in all the ways. In all the ways, we are just as important. This is for young people, middle-aged people, older people. I don't care where you are in your life's journey. I hope that you can hear Robin's message right now, and hopefully it will change something within you, and hopefully it will change something about how you go about your life, your days, your experiences, what you want for yourself. And this year I made myself even more bound and determined to do more and spend lengthier periods of time doing things by myself. But I can tell you that I have attempted for probably the last 3 to 4 years, slowly but surely, to creep up to this day right now, where I'm spending quality time with myself and encountering people that blow my mind. Before I start this journey of meeting Johnny at the beach the other day, I will tell you that after my encounter with Johnny, I talked to my son about it, and my mom, and I talked to my son about it. I haven't even told my mom about this because it's almost a story that I don't want to repeat fully. A couple of times I want it to be raw and firsthand from my experience. So I know she'll watch this video, but I had spoken to my son because he called me almost right after I had met and encountered Johnny for over an hour. And I told my son a brief story of some of the things that he told me. And Isaiah said to me, "Mom, how are you meeting all these cool people?" He was like, you've met some really cool people just over this summer. And I've been telling my son, Isaiah, you got to do things alone. You got to have this time for yourself where you're just in your own skin, in your own mind, in the fulfillment of your own life by yourself. And he said, you're not lonely? And I said, I'm the furthest from lonely I've ever felt. I'm alone, but I'm so far from being alone. This is just, I don't even know how to put it into words. I feel so alive by these experiences and these, random encounters with strangers and meeting all these people that are offering me all these quality aspects of themselves that I can take along in my days, learn from, and continue to grow from, just like I did from Robin all those years ago. And I really encouraged Isaiah to not lose himself as he's really entering adulthood and really getting out there and starting his own path. Prioritize yourself too, because I never did that. And I've lost myself many times over in my life, even before I was an adult. And I have been on different self-projects and missions to try to regain who I am and who I was meant to be and find my purposes that I was put here for. And we're just in another chapter of that. So the other day, I was alone on the beach walking. And after a really long walk and a long talk with God and a long experience of just watching the world wake up and encountering people walking alone on the beach, just like I was, smiling and watching the sun come up and watching the sky change and taking pictures and the happiness and peace on their face, I walked back to my car, and as I was approaching my car, there was a man named Johnny. And you could clearly tell that he was homeless. He had a rolling suitcase with him with a towel on it. And he was smoking a cigarette. So the cigarette was hanging out of his mouth. And he was just a raw, real, and true Bostonian. And you could just tell. He had my grandpa's working hands. I could not believe when I looked at his hands as he was putting his lighter up to his mouth to light his cigarette. I couldn't believe that I felt like I was staring directly at my grandpa's hands, my pa's hands, his working, rough hands that were all calloused, and, the skin was tough, and he had freckles all over his hands, just like my grandfather's did too, from hardworking hands out in the sunshine. And I just was staring at his hands. And as I approached him, he looked at me and he said, "Today's gonna be a scorcher. You ready for this, kid?" Bostonians, we don't say hello, good morning. We're not the friendliest. And I'm not speaking for everybody. I'm just saying what I experienced. I've lived in New England. I've lived in the Boston region. I live on the outskirts of Boston, about a half an hour away from the direct inner city. I am surrounded with Boston life, Boston people for almost 44 years of my life. In just a couple of days, I'm going to be 44 years old. And if you have any preconceived notions about who Bostonians are, I can tell you, we are the most loving, passionate, hardworking, dedicated, a lot of blue collar working, family oriented. We are, in my opinion, what I witness, what I see in my area. Maybe you're from a different part of Massachusetts. We are aggressive, bound and determined, heartfelt, wear your heart on your sleeve, would help anybody out, whether you liked them or you didn't like them. If you were in need, we're there type of people. funny, authentic, real, true, honest, gritty, fast-paced. I mean, I could keep going. We could just keep on going. We could just keep on going and keep on going. But we are hardcore, true blue people. My Grammy, my great Grammy, even at an older age, used to call herself a tough old Yankee. And that's how she went out too. She actually was leaving in the ambulance. She said she just wasn't feeling good one day. I was there with her in the kitchen. My mom was there with her. She wasn't feeling well. She called us, said, "Can you come by? I'm not feeling well." She was standing up, looking straight in our eye. She was smoking a cigarette too. She said, "I'm not feeling good. I think I'm going to call the ambulance." Called the ambulance for her. The ambulance came in, got her, put her on the stretcher. She was laughing, joking, teasing with them, hanging out. You know, we weren't thinking nothing of it. She was gone that day. As she was rolling out on the stretcher before they took her to the hospital, she said, "You know what? I'm 89 years old. I'm a tough old Yankee." And she was. She absolutely 100% was. These are the people that I grew up with every day of the week. This is what is embedded inside of me. This is why I'm so bound, determined, wild, and wear my heart on my sleeve. This is my world, and these are my people. And Johnny was all of that in a bag of chips. I can tell you that. We don't start with a "how do you do," but I can tell you, we start in mid-sentence telling you about life. So he went from there and he said, "You know what, kid?" He's like, "I love this." He's like, "I wake up every day. I do what I want to do. I work hard for what I have." And he said, "My paving job is starting in a couple of months." He's like, "I'm down on my luck right now." He said, "But you know what? Life's good. I'm the best I've ever been." He said, "You know how you just learn to be unhappy and you accept it?" And I said, "Well," I said, "What happened? What happened?" And he said, "I was with my old lady for 37 years. He said, 6 kids with her. It's just life." He said, "You just live everyday life." He said, "You're together for a long time. You just learn to accept each other's mistreatment of each other. You just go about everyday life living the best you can." He said, "You just kind of learn to accept to be unhappy, not fulfilled." He said, "Yeah, well, guess what?" He said, "Our journey together is over. Down on my luck right now. I got a lot of friends, know a lot of people." He said, "In the nicer weather, I sleep on people's couches. I stay with friends. I help them. I pay them rent in the colder months." He said, "But when it's nice outside," he said, "I love being out here." And this is a man that probably just slept in the bushes that were right on the side of where I was parked, because that's roughly where he started his day, was on the side of that little embankment where there was bushes, shrubbery, and trees. He had a suitcase and a towel on it. He was all disheveled, absolutely very physically fit, still worked full time, doesn't have a steady place to live, but he said, "You know what? Life is the best it's ever been." He said, "For the first time in my life, I'm living for me. I'm living for myself." He said, "And look at what I get to wake up to whenever I feel like it." He said, "My paving job starts tomorrow." He said, "And I can't wait. I've been paving for over 40 years. He said, "I'm a jack of all trades. I'm a master mechanic." He said, "I do odd jobs all over the cities." He said, "I get paid good." He said, "Now I'm going to make my money on my paving throughout the whole summer. I'm going to buy myself 2 campers." He said, 2 campers. He said, "One's going to hold all my tools, all my things that are being stored at a buddy's house right now." He said, "It's going to hold all my stuff. And then the other one I'm going to stay in." He said, "What area you come from?" I said, "Well, I'm local to this area." And he said, "All right, I'm up the street." He said, "That's where I lived for 37 years. He said, But I'm all over. He said, I go to your town most often. He said, I do a lot of work there. He said, I take the city bus everywhere. You take the city bus? He said, that's the best thing going. You should always take the city bus. Why would you put gas in your car and spend all that money when you can take the city bus? He said, you take this line to this line, that line to that line. He said, hey, I'll give you a tip. He said, you, your husband, come down here, have a beach day. Have a full beach day. Stay until the middle of the night if you feel it. Last bus out of here, 9 o'clock at night through the summer. He said, it's free. You know that, right? And I said, yeah, I took the bus for many, many years. I said, I took the bus for many years because I didn't have a car for about 7 months at one stint when my son was younger and I had to go to work every day. I said, and I would walk right down the hill to the bus station. He goes, wow, you live that close to there? Why aren't you taking the bus everywhere? And I started laughing. He said, I hop on that thing. He said, it takes me to the beach, it takes me to grocery shopping, takes me to the shopping centers, the shopping mall, takes me to all over the place. He said, and I don't pay a dime. He said, I don't have to do nothing. They let me take my bike on there. He still rides a bike. This guy's solid as a rock, muscular, about 5 feet tall. Not a huge guy by any means, but you could tell his body was the strongest as it probably had been since he was a baby. He was rough and tough and reminded me so much of my Uncle Kenny and my pa. I couldn't get over it. I absolutely couldn't get over it. So I watched him and his mannerisms, and even that reminded me of my grandfather. He said, so listen to this. He said, so you take the bus down here, you, your husband, spend the whole day, go in the water, beautiful day, nice and hot like it's going to be today, get a nice tan going, go to one of the restaurants right over here on the strip, have yourself a nice seafood dinner, get a couple drinks. I didn't even get to tell him I don't drink because this was just a listening conversation because Johnny had a lot to talk about and I relished in every moment. So he said, get a nice little buzz on. He said, enjoy your life, kid. That's what I'm telling you. Get on the bus at 9 o'clock, go home safe. No need for drinking and driving. He said, go, have a good time. Where's your husband now? I said, he went on a deep sea fishing trip. And he said, oh, tell him not to be cheap. Get those fish filleted before he leaves the boat. I started laughing. I said, he does. He gets his fish filleted before he even leaves the boat. He said, that's a smart guy right there. And I just looked at him and I'm like, thank you, God. I thought to myself, thank you, God, for Johnny this morning. Thank you, God, for this encounter this morning. He continued on from there. He goes, I could tell you a lot of things about myself. He goes, I probably already have. He said, why don't I thank you right now for my counseling session? He said, you know how much counselors get paid? And I laughed and I said, no, but I think it's a pretty penny. He goes, oh yeah, it's a pretty penny. Very sorry about that. I intermittently ended up pressing stop by accident. But let's continue on. He said they get he said counselors. He said, thanks for my free counseling session. He said, you know how much counselors get paid? I said, no, but I think it's a pretty penny. And he said, yeah, about $185 an hour. He said, you just saved me $185. He said, boy, I could tell you a lot of stories about myself. He said, a lot of stories. He said, I've lived a pretty rough life. He said, I've had a lot of loss. He said, I lost my mom when I was 13, really dramatically. He said, still bothers me to this day. He said, I lost one of my 6 kids, said in a very tragic way. He said, and I just try to do the best I can in life. He's like, I wake up every day that I'm still here and I'm still able to try again every day. He was like, that's how everybody should try to live their lives. Be humble. Try to do the best you can. Make a difference in this world. He said, be a good person. Help others. And I said, Johnny, you're on the right track. I have a feeling you're always going to be okay. I said, I can just tell. You remind me a lot of my grandfather and my uncles. He goes, oh, yeah, I do. And I told him their name. And he goes, oh, that sounds real familiar. My uncle and my grandpa were very, familiar faces in our area. And he said, oh, I recognize those names. He said, yeah, uncle. He said, you worked on trucks? He was a master mechanic too. And I said, yep. He said, oh yeah. He said, I know him. He said, I've seen him around many times over my life. And I just know. I know in my heart and in my soul that he was placed right in front of me for a reason. I probably would have passed him by. I probably wouldn't have had that encounter with him if I had even been with Richie. I probably would have just gotten in my car and left and gone to do what I needed to do for the day, gone to work, and missed out on that opportunity of meeting Johnny. Johnny continued on with many, many, many stories, and he did tell me in depth his sadness, his losses, and there were so many of them over his 60 years here on earth. But he still thanks God for his life. And he said, someday I'll understand it. And I said, I believe we all will. And it was just such a breathtaking encounter. His stories were so raw, real, authentic, true, and just so forthcoming. And he still is trying to do the best he can every single day, even though he's in this predicament where he doesn't even have a place to call home. It's such a lesson. We can wake up miserable every single day if that's what we choose to do. Or we can wake up happy every single day if we choose to. We can be angry, bitter, hold grudges, and feel like we've been slighted in so many ways because we go through so much. We go through so much, so many hardships, so many difficulties, so many trials. But you know what? Here we are. Here we are. We're still here. We can try again. We can do better. We can work harder. We can change everything about what we're experiencing right now. We can go through hardships, but try to look for the light. Try to look for the peace. Try to look for the lessons and conversations with other people. Johnny had me crying. Johnny had me laughing. Johnny had me feeling all the emotions. He had me feeling all the feelings. And you know what? I thought for a second, Johnny was losing it. I thought, all right, maybe all of his stories aren't true because he told me this one story that I just could not wrap my head around. He told me, you know what? He said, I miss my pet rooster. And I said, okay. I said, you had a pet rooster? He said, oh yeah, that was my best friend. He said, I had a whole line, their whole family line. He said, I had his grandfather, then I had his dad. He said, and then I had my pet rooster that just passed away a couple months ago. His name's Juju. And I was looking at him, and he said he loved to ride on the bike with me. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, all right, is this just tale telling like a lot of us like to do? Or is this factual? And he saw the look on my face, I'm thinking, so he realized that I was questioning him and his pet rooster riding on a bike down the main roads. And he said, oh yeah? He goes, you don't believe me? He said, look it up. He said, I don't have a phone. He said, let me talk into your phone. Press the speaker. I said, okay. So I pressed the speaker. He talked into my phone. He said, man riding bike with pet rooster past construction workers on a very local main road that I travel on almost every single day. And I looked at him and I said, you were up that way? And he said, every day, all day. He said, I used to ride that rooster around. He said he loved summertime. He said he loved to be right on the front of my handlebars. He said, and riding up and down that main highway. And this is like, it's considered a highway, but it's really just a really long, lengthy roadway that goes, from state to state. But it's a state highway, they consider it. And it's a long travel on that one particular road. Well, he rode his pet rooster up and down that thing, and I pressed go once he spoke into the search bar, and guess what? The picture came up of Johnny riding his bike with his pet rooster right on the front of the handlebars, with his head tucked down. His eyes were as happy eyes could look. And he was riding that pet rooster up and down that main road day after day after day after day through the whole entire summertime. And they made the local news. They made the local news one particular day because he rode past a construction site. He rode past a construction site that literally called the news station and said, okay, we see this guy riding with his pet rooster on the handlebars, looking like they're living their best life. And the news station came out and did a story about Johnny and his pet rooster. He wasn't kidding. These are wild, eccentric, amazingly fantastic people that live up this way. If you've never been to Boston, if you don't know us in person, I bet you, if you met us anywhere in the world, you could probably tell that you're meeting a Bostonian person. And I'm pretty sure that that's true for everybody that lives anywhere. If you meet a Southern person, you're probably going to be well aware immediately, whether they tell you or not, that they're from down south or the Midwest or even the West Coast. You know, you can tell where people are from if they have been born and bred there. And us Bostonians, we tend to stay true to where we live. We can try to move out of here, but if we've lived here for a long time, wherever we go, we're bringing it with us. And Johnny was a Bostonian to the core of his soul. Wild, true, authentic self. There he was with his pet rooster, Juju. And he was riding on a hot summer day and was on the news. I screenshotted that picture. And even though I'm not going to share it publicly, maybe you can search it. I don't know if it would come up wherever you are in the world. I'm not quite sure if you would be able to see where this gentleman comes from or where he was riding that day. But Johnny lives the life. He's already lived quite the journey, and he has quite the journey to still keep going. And he is bound and determined like the rest of us. He has a mission, he has a purpose, and he was a ball of love, laughter, happiness, depth, and so genuine. And I am so thankful that I got to have that conversation with him for over an hour. We got to the point where I said to him, Johnny, I really got to get going. I said, I got to get going, but I said, you changed my life by meeting you for over this hour. I said, you've made me think about some pretty cool things, some pretty cool ways of thinking of things. And I said, and I'm gonna take you forward with me. He goes, listen, life's never gonna be easy. It's not easy for any of us. He said, but you gotta wake up every day. You gotta keep moving. You gotta keep trying. He said, look at me. He said, I ride a bike around when I'm not taking the bus. He said, I got a bad hip. He said, getting older. He said, I'm still tough. I'm still strong. I can do anything. He said, but I got a bad hip. He said, and look at me. I'm going to go take my wheelie little luggage. And he said, I'm going to go wheel myself down there, get myself a nice breakfast sandwich, a coffee. I'm going to watch the world go by. He said, I'm going to get ready for work. I'm going to go take a nice shower in the shower house. He said, and I'm going to enjoy my day. He said, it's going to be beautiful today. He said, if you're leaving, you should come back later. He said, it's going to be a gorgeous day. And I said, yeah, I probably will. I said, and I hope I see you again. I said, and now I know all the areas that you frequent. I said, and I also know what bus station you pull out of every single day to go on all of your different adventures. And I said, so I'm going to be watching for you. And I said, and I hope I see you again really soon. I said, I'm really sorry for all of your losses that you've had. He goes, it's a part of living. He said, it's a part of life. He said, it stinks. He said, but we all go through it. He said, we just have to have our memories and, and know that we're going to see him again. And I 100% believe that Johnny is on the right track with that too. So my encounter with him was magic to me, just like it is watching the sun rise almost every morning this week and being so grateful for these days. So grateful that I'm awake and I can try again. If I didn't do the best for myself the day prior, today I'm going to try even harder. I hope I see Johnny again in my travels. And over these last couple of years, and especially this summer, I have really, really had some amazingly wonderful experiences talking to total and complete strangers in this world. So I hope it encourages you to reach out. Don't be shy. If you are a shy person, just say hello. See if it will spark a conversation. Start small. Do things that are little. Look at people in the eye and just try to encounter some new different things that might bring you a world of change for yourself, your growth, your well-being. And no matter how tough life gets, no matter how hard it is, we always have the ability to change it. We always have the option to grow and do things differently. And if you're struggling, find ways. There's so many different ways to make money, and if money's an issue, to make changes and have more people in your life. Join groups, attend community centers. I have listings of places all around me that do like day trips to all of these adventures that you can sign up for in my local city. And all these strangers get together and they become friends. They go roller skating one night of the week. They go down to Foxwoods to the casino as a group, and then they become friends. Look into your city and what it offers for community. Go to the local park, sit on a bench if you're able to. Smile at people, say hello, see if it pulls in a conversation. Write pen pal mail with somebody that you haven't reached out to in a long time. Reconnect with people. Whatever your passion is, whatever you're good at, whatever gift you've been given, artistically, creatively, educationally, whatever you're passionate about, do that. Everybody sells everything online. There's always a way to try to, make extra money if you're on hard times. Use your abilities, your strengths. There's so many different ways to change life. There's so many different ways to change your experience. And I just really encourage you guys to try to do the best you can. If you are in a season of your life that is difficult, you can do it. You can do it. Some days it's easier for me than others, and other days it's easy because I've worked so hard to get there. And I just want it all for everybody here too. Now, wasn't that the most spectacular, wonderful, fantastic sunrise that you've ever seen? Look at that sun. Look at that blazing, beautiful, amazing sun right there. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? What a blessing. It's unbelievable. It's absolutely, amazingly unbelievable. And I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm so grateful to be witnessing this and being able to be with you guys and make a video. I know people are getting sick of these videos. I have a feeling. I've lost like 4 subscribers on this channel since I've been posting these vlogs, but I think I've transitioned my vision of this Crazy Callan Vlogs channel to something new and different. And that's what I'm gonna do, because that's where I want this to go. This is still a connection piece to be with everybody here that I've met and made connections with and that want to get to know me further and deeper as a person outside of my main channel where I pretty much just haul from the Dollar Tree and then randomly upload from other stores when I find cool things on my opposite scheduled days that I normally post Dollar Tree hauls. And then over here, I did a lot of random uploading adventures with you guys for no rhyme or reason. But I think this summer is creating something new for this channel, something different, something unique, something for me as well as for you guys if you want to continue the journey with me over here. I think it's going to be about discovering myself. I think it's going to be about showing you my world. I think it's going to be about showing you more and more in depth as I grow as a person, my different experiences, my different encounters, where I am, what I'm looking at, how I'm viewing the day. It's like a diary for myself and my life in this midlife for myself. I mean, I've even thought of it the other day. This is something that if Isaiah ever wanted to have this as his keepsake from his mom, once I've moved on someday, I hope a very long time from now, this is something that he can look back on, he can watch, listen to, and hear my thoughts, my feelings, and what I went through in my life and where I came from and what I experienced and how I grew as a person. And maybe he can learn something from it as he grows as a human being and as he changes throughout his life and he's going through different things. This is something that he can watch and he can feel that I am still encouraging him to do the best he can, to live the best way he can, to be free inside of himself and love himself just like he loves everybody else, take care of himself, prioritize himself. Even when I raised Isaiah, I thought to myself it would be selfish to do anything for myself at all, ever. The minute I had him, my entire world revolved around Isaiah in every way, shape, or form. I didn't do anything for myself. I didn't take care of myself. I didn't put any time, effort into myself. Everything that I did was for him, to benefit him in every single way. And that's just being a parent, right? But I never went out. I never had a babysitter unless I was going to work, which I worked a lot. And that might be another vlog too, because I've been thinking about all of my work experiences since I've worked. And I've even had a cool journey through like my working life throughout the time that I've worked. And I've worked since I was young, even before it was on the books. But that's another vlog to have those memories pour out and all the different job titles that I've had and all the different experiences that I've gathered from my working life outside of what I do now. So I just want him to look back and fully understand me and who I was. So this is a personal diary that I can leave for him someday. So that's the direction that I think that this channel is going in. I'm not going to post any more random hauls over here. I'm just gonna post these moments that I capture that I want to share with you and my son someday. So I hope that you enjoy that, and if you don't, honestly, no harm, no foul. You know, everybody deserves to just enjoy their day. And if this isn't something for you, totally understandable. We're not all the same. But that's where I'm headed on this platform right here, on this particular channel. And then I will have my Crazy Days of Callan channel where I will shop and have fun hanging out with my friends just like I do and have done for all of these years over there. So that was the sunrise. I love you and I miss you, Robin. And thank you for my new chapter in this part of my life that I am doing in honor of you. And Johnny was a cool cat. He was a cool cat, and he just reaffirmed everything that I've been thinking and feeling and wanting for myself. And I couldn't believe the conversation that we had is the conversation that I've been speaking into my own life for quite a while now and working on. So that's it. I love you guys with all my heart. What an amazing, amazing day. And I hope that you have a beautiful, blessed, awesome one. I love you guys so much. Bye, everyone.